A lot of people do not like 343's Halo games. It's no secret. And I won't lie to you, I've held very negative opinions of these games myself, but recently, that's changed. And I want to have an honest discussion detailing the reasons why I think people don't like Halos 4 and 5. And I want to start by looking at why so many people say things like 343 ruined the franchise. Because in my experience playing these games, playing them recently, even watching some videos of somebody new to the franchise experiencing all of the Halo games for the first time, though more on that later, I really wanted to focus on being fair in my discussion about these games. So grab your snacks, stay away from the keyboard for a little bit, and let's just talk about this. Because I'll admit, being told by YouTubers I respect in the Halo space that I should hate these games over and over and over again certainly did have an effect on my opinions. It wasn't until I watched a noob really enjoy their time with the original games, then also love the 343 games, that I started to second guess the reasons why these games are so universally dumped on. And I'm not saying these games are perfect or anything, again, back away from the keyboard, or that you should rethink every criticism that you have. I just wonder if we were a little unfair or harsh in our reactions. So with that, let's jump into Halo 4, 343's first attempt at a Halo game. Well, wait, before we jump into Halo 4, there's an aspect from both of these games that I wanted to discuss first now that I think of it. That's art style. And while yes, I have a preferred art style, which is Halo C, like a civilized person, I believe Halo CE has the best weapon and armor and Covenant art style. I feel like Halo 2 and 3 went a little too slim with Chief's armor, and it was weird for me as a fan of Halo CE. And honestly, I feel as though the larger conversation and debate between Bungie's art style and 343's art style is just as subjective and maybe even trivial as comparing the armors between Halo CE 2 and 3. If you can have debates and preferences between the individual Bungie games as well as the individual 343 games because they're all different, then claiming that one company did it objectively better than the other and therefore the other doesn't know how to make or design an interesting Halo game is a bizarre argument to make. Then I guess there's not too many people making that exact argument. I just wanted to say the endless debate about art style has probably always existed within Halo, ever since Halo 2 changed things in 2004. And you're certainly entitled to your preferences. Honestly, Halo Infinite is my favorite art style since Halo CE. But making this debate with the goal of knocking 343 and every game they've made is disingenuous. You may definitely have your preference, but saying any of the 343 art styles is explicitly like anti-Halo and hurts the game in some objective way doesn't make a ton of sense when the game's art style is consistently changed with every release. So, with that out of the way, now we can discuss Halo 4 from 343 Industries. Halo 4 is a cool video game. Alright, that's it. That's the review. Bye, on to Halo 5. Okay. Jokes aside, Halo 4 was a solid first attempt at taking over a behemoth of a franchise like Halo as a brand new studio. And I find it difficult to knock a game in a position like this. Like, what do you do? Make a Bungie clone? I mean, Reach made changes and was still mostly well received, but now there's a new sheriff in town. You gotta set yourself apart. Take this bull by the horns and make the franchise your own. So boom, we got a new art style. We got Master Chief looking all high tech. Bam, we got a new character model for Cortana that's got people simping for years to come. In Blammo, we got the Covenant looking all different and alien-y as hell. And it's easy to get wrapped up in all the hoopla that was everywhere at the time about how these changes were super bad and anti-Halo and all that. As someone who was playing Halo CE in freaking pull-ups, I've gotten very used to change within this franchise. Like, between every Halo game to have ever been released, we've seen changes to the art direction, to Master Chief's suit, to the enemy models. So all of the new changes to Halo 4 when it released in 2012 didn't really bring out strong emotions out of me when I played the game for the first time. I had those opinions at one point where I thought the art style between Halo 4 and 5 and 343, it was like super bad for Halo and tearing away from its identity and those sort of opinions. And I kind of realized over time those opinions kind of came from hearing them from YouTubers over and over and over. Recently, I've begun to feel like 343 was just looking to set themselves apart from Bungie. They're just trying to create some sort of identity for their games. And I honestly think it's pretty silly to think blank game isn't Halo feeling just because the aliens look a bit different. Or if the Master Chief has changed suits for the billionth time. And with Halo 4, 343 also looked to change the type of narrative they wanted to tell. They wanted Master Chief to be more of a character and tell more of a story through that lens. And I feel like the word cinematic fits here. They were looking to create a more cinematic feeling game. So let's take a closer look at the story of Halo 4 and what they did with it. The big picture narrative of Halo 4 is essentially an expansion to the lore surrounding the Librarian and Didact, which conversations between these two could be read in the terminals of Halo 3. So I do believe it's fair to say that this plotline is certainly an interesting and likely place for the Chief's story to go post Halo 3. Chief and Cortana end up shipwrecked on a Forerunner planet, Requiem, which holds the Didact prisoner for reasons that are in the books and I don't fully understand. I'll get to reading them at some point. Chief mistakenly releases the Didact when he was trying to inform a nearby UNSC ship not to approach the planet. The Didact mentions something called the Mantle of Responsibility and takes off towards the Affinity after it had been pulled into the planet. Master Chief then meets the Librarian and she does something weird to him. I believe she says she speeds up his human evolution, but this is promptly never brought up again. I'm not really sure if this was some way they wanted to canonize, like Chief being borderline unstoppable or what, but this part always just confused me a bit, but it was easy enough to move past. And rather than point per point recapping the rest of this game's narrative, I'd rather say that most of this gets over the top and hard to keep track of for the player. Understanding who the Librarian and Didact are, especially if they didn't read the Halo 3 terminals, and what are their motives, and what the Mantle of Responsibility is, why Del Rio is such a prick to the man who saved humanity over and over again. Like, I felt like with Halo 4, 343 was pulling in a lot of threads. It's not that they are done poorly or aren't interesting, it's that all of this is happening at once, and all of these different subplots get a little lost within each other. Especially when the player is specifically trying to focus on the developing nature of Chief and Cortana's relationship. She had been awake and deteriorating the entire time she was, 1, with the Gravemind on High Charity for most of Halo 3, and 2, while the Chief was in cryosleep between Halo 3 and 4. She is now past the effective age for an AI and is declining into rampancy. And Chief is struggling to accept this as Cortana continuously loses her shit throughout the game. Seeing these events unfold through the gameplay as well as in the cutscenes was a great choice to get the player to really care about Cortana's state. This part of the narrative was really well done and kept the players super engaged with the game's story. Nobody that currently looks back at Halo 4 says it had a great narrative because of the Didact plotline was handled so well. No, it's because the relationship between Chief and Cortana takes center stage, especially at the end of the game, and it steals the show. And yeah, I think it's done well and sets up an interesting future with a grief-stricken Chief alone without an AI backing him up, or the possibility of a replacement AI. But all in all, Halo 4 is a good Halo game. It explores many of the themes set up in the Bungie games, but hadn't really been dove into yet, such as Chief as a character, and how he grapples with the fact that he's human, but has been specifically manufactured as a killing machine.
Before this is all over, promise me you'll figure out which one of us is the machine.
Now, getting into aspects of the game like level design, music, and atmosphere, I think in Halo 4 they're fine. To be completely honest, I don't think many of the levels are super memorable. Moments like the initial landing on Requiem, the mission where you stay alongside the Mammoth, and the ending of the game are really the parts that stick out to me. However, I find myself saying this in comparison to the Bungie games and their levels, and I still wonder to myself if that's a fair comparison to be making, because those games were a huge part of my childhood, and that carries a certain weight. And again, it wasn't until I watched somebody play all of these games without the first 3 having this huge emotional baggage of having childhood memories associated with them. I think that's the position to where you can judge a game like Halo 4 at its most fair. Moving into music, I think my biggest complaint about the music isn't the music itself. It's just that it was never used in a specific way that really sets a distinct tone. And again, another comparison to the old games, but if Halo 4 would have used some of the music intense like chapters to split up a mission and use the music to really set the tone of whatever section of the mission you're entering, would have gone a long way for me.
Particle cannons, waiting for the Mammoth's mini-mac to take them out. 766, lose some altitude. You're inside the kill box.
Almost got target lock. Just a little more.
Pelican, fall back.
Infinity! Pelican's down!
Get to the crash site and retrieve that target designator, Gypsy. You've got no chance of clearing those guns without it.
And I know I keep saying comparison to the old games might be a little unfair, but I do feel like that one's important. But overall, yeah, I like Halo 4. And just because it can't compare to the years and years of memories I have playing Halo CE, doesn't mean that this go-round playing as the Master Chief is bad or should be hated in some way. There isn't a Halo game more controversial and universally hated than Halo 5 Guardians from 2015. And I haven't played Halo 5 since maybe 2017. And before that, I gave it a quick, non-memorable playthrough back in 2015 when the game came out. I didn't have any strong opinions on the game back then, and believe it or not, I just kind of went, okay, and went back to playing Grand Theft Auto and squeezing the absolute life out of Black Ops 2 before I could scrap together enough cash to get my own Xbox One. Most of my impressions on Halo 5 were admittedly molded over time from my favorite YouTubers telling me I should despise this abomination of a Halo game over and over and over again. But I wonder if all this hate was a bit misguided. I've had sort of a realization that in a few ways the story of Halo 5 was similar to Halo 2. And I mean, I've even seen this comparison in some of my comments. They both were a bit full of crazy stuff going on narratively that risked overwhelming the player, and an expansion of the lore, or at least taking some of the deeper lore of the universe and giving it to the player through the story.
Your proper name is Megalagolo. They're a hive mind of worms. They're disgusting.
And also leaving the story on a cliffhanger moment that had everyone going, what? You're gonna end it here? Why? And with Halo 5, we never got to see where they were going, where they were heading with all of this setup. Continuing with the Halo 2 comparison, imagine if the changes from Halo CE found in Halo 2, like playing as the Arbiter, the lack of a health system, complaints that dual wielding wasn't inherently Halo because it wasn't in the game before it. Imagine if Bungie had got some sort of backlash, caved, and essentially made a Halo CE 2.0 with a super tame and safe story rather than sealing the trilogy off with what they were building from Halo 2. This scenario is exactly what happened to Halo 5, and whatever their sequel was going to be got scrapped in replace of something simpler, more akin to what Bungie would have done to appease fans. And looking back at this game and looking at all of the hate it still gets to this day, and I believe the memories and connections to the original trilogy that fans had a directly negative effect on these 343 games. The original plan for Halo 6 could have been that trilogy's Halo 3, capping off all of the questions raised in Halo 5 in a satisfying way. But with that being said, Halo 5 could have definitely done many things better than it did. It is in no way the perfect game that people shit on for no reason or solely because they wanted a Halo 3. Yeah, certain aspects of the lore they tried to incorporate into the plot should have been more clearly explained. Yeah, the marketing was wildly different from the game that was delivered.
Let us remember him as our protector, and not the one who gave us this. As our savior, and not our betrayer. Let us see him forever as you, and not as you. All hail the conquering hero. The one who was supposed to save us all. But now I must save us from you.
And yes, it was pretty cheesy bringing a fragment of Cortana back to be the big villain. But you can't deny that everything that was presented was at least interesting. And it would have also been interesting to see the full arc of this trilogy get completed before writing it off as a complete failure. And again, just imagine if Halo 2 just never got its Halo 3. And perhaps Bungie went right into something like Reach to try and play it safe. If that were the case, I feel opinions on Halo 2 would have soured over time. And still, I understand this comparison isn't exactly like one-to-one, because Halo 2's narrative, while filled with new lore, introducing a lot of characters, and ending with a major cliffhanger, it was also a bit of a better written story and had some very artistic elements that Halo 5 frankly didn't have. Halo 5 was still a very polished game that was filled with things that were objectively Halo in nature. I recently had the pleasure of watching MrRoflWaffles play through the Halo games, and I highly recommend that you do as well. The link will be in the description. Watching a newbie to the Halo franchise love the Bungie trilogy, just as we all have, and watching that in real time was just amazing.
Halo, it's finished.
No, I think we're just getting started.
And he takes off the helmet.
Oh my god! What?
Yeah.
What?
He takes off the helmet. That was so fun seeing her reaction to this game. But you were the last remaining survivor of the ring.
Was a masterpiece.
Really? You liked it that much?
That was so much fun, man.
It's a good campaign.
But it really became interesting when he moved into the 343 trilogy, especially in Halo 5.
It took you long enough.
Wait, what? No. What? Wait, no. No. Wait, no. It's post credits. Dare I say, Halo 5, twice as good as ODST, better than Halo 4, better than Reach, on par with 2 and 3, and in my books, and I can't believe I'm saying this, a 10 out of 10. Don't shoot the messenger, but I had a really good time.
I 100% left that video with a whole new appreciation for the game and what they tried to do with it. Watching Milo have so much fun playing the game and discovering the lore and stories that filled some of the levels, he found things that I had never seen in my playthroughs of the game. And it was so cool. And it was very Halo.
Just get a nice view of what's about to happen. You ready?
What are you about to do?
You ready?
Yeah.
He had people in his comments the entire time, essentially telling him he needs to hate this game to maybe validate their feelings or that they hated the game. And he finished the game and loved it. And his comments were filled with people saying, well, go watch Ackman's video. You'll have a complete change of heart. Like, you'll see why this game sucks so bad. And it was just an interesting realization to me that maybe we've all kind of like created this collective opinion on these games that were built from the weight of the original trilogy to where we couldn't really look at these games fairly. We were constantly in our heads comparing them to the Bungie games. And in some ways, I don't know if that's a fair way to judge a video game. Another big part of this is that I think all of us who were big Halo fans were really deceived by the marketing and the shock that took place as we were playing a game that wasn't marketed to us kind of blinded us from some of the cool things this game had in store for us. And I think it's totally fair to be upset with 343 for the way in which this game's ads were super different than the game we ended up playing. But years and years after the game's launch, how much does that really make the game we got bad? And I think we all should wonder how exactly this game would have been received by fans if it had actually had really good, accurate marketing. But all of these years later, after watching Milo's experience with this game, I find it kind of difficult to hate on this game after this perspective shift. And again, not that it's changed Halo 5 to the top of my Halo rankings or anything. It just really makes me question the unending hate for this game that comes from fans. Because 343 really tried to make this a great addition to the Halo catalog. I think in some ways it did, just not all of them. Also with Halo 5, I have to discuss the multiplayer. I had so much fun playing this game and grinding out ranked Slayer and ranked FFA. The fair starts with the precision pistol made me feel like this game was just tailored to my liking. I distinctly remember reading an HCS blog post that had come out in the leading weeks to the game's release, and 343's description of what they were going for in Halo 5's arena was a word-for-word description of everything I wanted in an online multiplayer. And from that moment, I was back into Halo in a meaningful way. So yeah, while it's no Bungie clone and certainly had some missteps with parts of its narrative and its content feature set at launch, I enjoyed much of my time with Halo 5. And while Halo 5 deserves some, if not most, of the criticism it gets, it definitely doesn't deserve the deep hatred it's received from the internet. So while I understand the emotions that drive the responses these games derive from fans, I just get intrigued when I see games that honestly look like they deserve a fair conversation get absolutely dogpiled by hate online. And I know some of that is inherent byproduct of being on the internet, but I do feel like there may be a larger conversation to be had there. But that sounds like a video for another day. So if you're looking for more from me, here's my deep dive at the original Bungie trilogy. Thanks for watching.